As part of our review about what transformational geometry is, today we're going to create an interactive notebook note in your blue math notebooks. So the first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to take the page that you have and cut it in half, the way that I've cut it here. We're only going to use half of it, so I want you to keep one of the halves, doesn't matter, and then just put the other one aside. Now take a minute to cut out the grid, which is here, as well as the three shapes that we'll be using: the trapezoid, the triangle, and the rectangle. When you have those four pieces cut out and put aside, I want you to open to a new page. Now it's really important that you get an entire page. Don't start partway down. Go to the next available brand new fresh page. Up along the top, you're going to write your title, which is Transformational Geometry. Then you're also going to write our learning goal, and you're going to record what our learning goal is. So our learning goal for this lesson is to be able to identify, perform, and explain transformations. So you need to make sure that you have those three things written down. All right, once that's done, I'd like you to take your grid piece, your big square grid, flip it over upside down, and you're going to put a little bit of glue just in the center. So just in a square or in a circular pattern along the center. It's really important that you do not glue down any of the corners. We are going to be using the corners throughout the activity, so please make sure you do not glue down the corners. You're only going to want to glue down the section in the middle. So your page should look something like this now, with only the center part glued in and your grid facing up. The next thing you're going to do is, using a ruler and a either colored marker or colored pencil crayon, you're going to draw yourself your y and your x axes and label them like I have here. Now, because the lines on the grid are dark to begin with, I had to go over each line a couple of times, but as you can see, it's very clear. I used my ruler every time I did it. Okay. Now what you're going to do is, along the bottom, you're going to create a little 3-column chart down here, column 1, column 2, column 3, and you're going to give them the headings of translation, rotation, and reflection. Once you've done that, you're going to go back to the shapes. Now you can see that I've added a little bit of color to them, and that's just so that when we put them on our grid page here, they stand out, because the grid is white and the shapes are white as well. So I just took a yellow pencil crayon and quickly kind of colored over them. And then, as you can see, I used a pen to label the different vertices. Okay, so starting with your triangle, it's really important for the rest of the activity that you label the vertices as you see them here. So you need to make sure that your triangle is in this position. You can rotate it on your table if it's not. You need to label the bottom right vertice A, the 90-degree vertice B, and the top vertice C. Really important that they're in that order. Once that's done, you can label your trapezoid. Okay, so you're going to start in top left with H, top right with I, bottom right with J, and bottom left with K. So again, it needs to go H, I, J, K, and it's really important that they stay in this order. For your rectangle, before you label anything, you actually need to take the page, the little piece of rectangle here, and you need to fold it in half. And then when you unfold it, there'll be a little crease. I want you to take a pencil or a pen or something and draw your line along that crease, like I've done there, so that you can see the difference. And now what you have is actually two different squares, and that's perfect. That's exactly what it needs to look like. So when you label the vertices on your squares, please make sure you're only labeling the right-hand square here. Okay, you're not going to do anything to this square right now. And you're going to label top left D, top right E, bottom right F, bottom left G. So now you're going to take your trapezoid and you're going to take a paper clip and you're going to clip it into this position in the top left quadrant, or quadrant 2. Okay, so it's really important that when you clip it in, you don't just throw it on there any which way. You make sure that your HI line is lined up along the top, that your K vertex or vertices is lined up with the point on the grid there, that your J vertices is lined up with the point on the grid there. You're going to clip it on with your paper clip. Now you're going to take your little brass fastener and you're going to poke a hole through your vertex A on your triangle. You might want to take a pen or a pencil or a pair of scissors to create a little hole first, and then put the brass fastener through. And you're going to make sure that you put that through on the -1, -2, -3, -4 y-axis. So you're going to be plotting this or sticking it in on the grid at a coordinate on the x-axis it's 0 and on the y-axis it's -4. So you want to make sure that that's where it is. Now we have to put our square/rectangle on. So I've glued on the back part that we actually labeled back a few steps ago, the side that has the vertexes labeled D, E, F, and G. And what you can see here in the picture is that it's folded over onto itself. So I glued the back on into these 4 squares of the quadrant here, so that eventually when we get to it, we're able to unfold this shape and it would come over like this. Okay. If you're not sure, remember that I have an example of this already done in my copy of the interactive notebook, and you can always come check it out. Alright, so now that all of our shapes are on, it's time to do some translating. The first thing we're going to do though is we're going to mark the vertices of the original shapes. So we're going to start with our trapezoid again, which is up here, and we're going to record in this spot down here where I've drawn the arrow, okay, all of this information. So you're going to write that the original trapezoid has points at, and then you're going to record the coordinate points. So how did I come up with these numbers? How did I get that k was -5 and 2? Well, if you remember from our other lesson, the x-axis, once we hit here, these become negative numbers. So this is -1, -2, -3, -4, this is -5, and then the y-axis on this side is positive, and on this side is negative. So right now on our y-axis we're up 1, 2, which means that our y-coordinate is 2. So our x-coordinate is -5 and our y-coordinate is 2. That's how we got those numbers there. When you're looking at our I-coordinate over here, which is below the k on my list, okay, that's a -2x, positive 5y. Then we have coordinate h here, which is -4, positive 5, and we have coordinate j here, which is a -1, positive 2. So we need to make sure that we get all of that information into this section here, keeping in mind that you're going to need the space below to write about your new translations. So make sure you kind of try to keep it combined onto 4 or 5 lines like I've done here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your shape. If you're looking at the image up here, you can see that my cutout is no longer in the original spot. This is the original spot that it was at, based on the points that we identified over here. And I've used my paper clip to just slide it along. So if you look at the instructions down here, it says that we translated 4 right, and then it says J in brackets. So translate, of course, means to slide it. So we've just taken it from here and we've slid it over. Okay. The 4 tells us how many we need to slide it over. So we need to slide it over 4 parts to the right, and then J. So what J means is which point we're counting from. Okay. So when our original shape was here, when our original shape was here, this was point J. And then I moved J over 1 spot, 2 spots, 3 spots, and 4 spots to the right, so that J was now sitting there. So it's really important when you're translating that you make sure you know which vertices you're counting from. Okay? So now that I have moved it the proper amount of space and I know where it needs to be, I'm going to record my new points of transformation. Okay? So now we're looking at the new shape. And you can see that where k is on the new shape here, that's at -1, positive 2. And where h is on the new shape, that's at x 0 and y positive 5. Where I is on our new shape, we're at positive 2 and positive, I wrote 3, but it's not positive 3, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should be 2 and positive 5, my mistake. And then last but not least, we have point J, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, up. So it should be positive 3, positive 2. So now that you have slid your trapezoid over 4 spots, translated it 4 spots to the right based on point J here, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, now what I'd like you to do is to just kind of sketch in what your new shape looks like and where your new coordinate points are. So I've just used a pencil to outline my new points at K, my new point at H, I, and J. I've connected the dots. I've shaded it lightly with a pencil, and then I've labeled all of my vertices again. Okay, and if you're not quite sure if you're labeling your vertices right, there's two things you can do. The first is that you can move your you can translate your slide over, your shape over on top again, or you can check your vertices points down here, remembering that I made an error and that should have been a 5. All right, so we're done translating our trapezoid. Now we're going to learn about rotating a shape, and we're rotating our triangle. So again, underneath in the bottom in your rotation column now, we're going to write that our original triangle has points at, and then we're going to record the vertices points. So hopefully I didn't make a mistake on this one. A is at, on the x-axis it's at 0, that's correct, and then it's -4 on the y-axis. So 1, 2, 3, -4. So the A-axis is correct. Now I know you can't see that A is labeled there because of the brass fastener, but it is underneath there labeled A. And now we can move on to looking at B. So B says that along the x-axis it's -3, so -1, -2, -3, and then on the y-axis it says it's -4. So -1, -2, -3, -4, it matches up. That is correct. Lastly, we need to check vertices C to make sure that it's been plotted right. And so that says on the x-axis it's -3, so we're going to check -1, -2, -3, and then the y-axis says -1, so it should be right here. I know it looks like it's lifted off a little bit, that's just because of the angle that the brass fastener made it sit at, but we're going to pretend that it lines up beautifully and that it shows -3, -1. Okay?